People were associating me with that Duke the Jeweler situation because I went to LaBusa pool party and he happened to be there and he happened to be standing on me.
Produces the dice game. He got three mothers who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators. He said what? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler round and got past the dice on accident.
Boosie just shook the whole game. Word is he locked in a federal plea deal that, according to street whispers, might drag J. Prince and his infamous dice crew straight into Fed territory. If this talk is real, it's way bigger than some gun charge. We're talking about a dice hustle that's been bleeding rappers for years. And here's the crazy twist. The same feds who've been chasing leads in Duke the Jeweler's murder, plus those dice games before his death, are now circling back on every single person tied to that night, Boosie included. Now that he's cutting a deal, the streets are buzzing with one big question. Is Boosie just saving his own skin, or is he ready to drop names that could shake one of the most feared circles in hip-hop? Because if even half these rumors hit the mark, J. Prince, the man long accused of running Houston's check-in culture, might finally face Fed heat you can't smooth talk your way out of. But this whole scheme looks like it's crashing down, all because of that deadly dice game the night Duke lost his life. Let's rewind for a second. Anybody who's been in Houston long enough knows the whispers, those so-called friendly dice games that somehow always leave the house winning big. Dice has always been part of Houston's underground, but the ones tied to J. Prince Jr., that's a whole different league. These ain't basement hustles. We're talking invite-only, high-stakes tables stacked with cash, guarded by the check-in rule so the house knows exactly who's sitting down. But the streets claim there's a twist. There's a playbook in motion. Pull rappers and ballers into a private room, flood it with drinks, flash piles of cash, and let the dice run the show. Charleston even spoke on it, but barely anybody took him serious.
Everybody in Texas know what the play is. If you rap it, you celebrity. If you like the strip club, you like to do this, you check in with them, they bringing them bad dice on you. Why you think that Duke the Jeweler, they really couldn't get him? That's why they had, come on, homie.
Insiders say the setup runs like a machine. 3-man rotation, one rolls, one holds, one swaps, and those dice, they ain't fresh out the box. They're cooked, so the odds always lean toward the house. The mission is simple. The house eats, and J. Prince Jr. reportedly snags around 30% of the pot. But everything spun out the night Duke the Jeweler stepped in. He wasn't some green gambler. He came iced out with millions on his neck and the confidence to match. Somehow, Duke ends up with dice not meant for him, and suddenly, boom, he's hitting every roll until he's up close to $100,000. Smiles turn stiff. The energy in that room shifts cold. Hours later, Duke walks out towards his car. No crew, no bodyguards, just him. Shots go off, and before anybody can blink, he's gone. Here's the part that had everyone shook. His jewelry was still on him untouched. Even his Louis Vuitton bag stuffed with over $1 million in custom pieces was left behind. That wasn't a robbery. That was about sending a message, keeping control. And Duke, he wasn't no random bystander. He was one of Chicago's most respected jewelers, crafting custom work for the biggest names in the game. When Boosie invited him to Houston, it looked like business. But Duke didn't know he was stepping into a trap where the rules weren't fair, and the dice weren't his friend. That Louis Vuitton bag, it ended up in Boosie's house. Now, Boosie claims Duke asked him to hold it during the game, and after the shooting, it just stayed with him. But investigators ain't buying that story so clean. Duke's phone went dark right after pinging near Boosie's recording studio, and the feds say they've got texts, surveillance, and witnesses tying Boosie's circle straight into Duke's last hours. And it gets heavier. The feds are pointing at Boosie's own nephew as the possible shooter. Instead of folding this into Boosie's other legal battles, they split it off into a full-blown federal murder probe, giving Duke's case undivided attention. That bag might be the very detail that pulled Boosie's name into Fed files. When the feds isolate a case, it's because they want laser focus and leverage. they can dangle leniency on one case in exchange for names on another. And the Duke case? It's packed with red flags for Boosie's camp. Duke's last phone ping near Boosie's studio, prints found inside Duke's rental, and witnesses piling up. No wonder the walls are closing in. And worse, the streets whisper some of Boosie's own people might already be talking. All it takes is one crack in the crew, and it's game over. So picture this: Boosie sitting on a federal gun case, a separate murder case, and possible snitches in his camp. A deal might look like his only exit, but to save himself, there are only two names he could possibly hand over: J. Prince Jr. or J. Prince himself. And let's not forget, two of the most infamous dice nights tied to J. Prince Jr. ended in blood. Duke the Jeweler, and later Takeoff, killed right outside another dice game. Even industry voices like Whack 100 are calling it out loud, accusing J. Prince Jr. of running setups where rappers can't win unless the house decides they can.
Produces the dice game. He got three mothers who rotate the dice. Now these dice is loaded. Big Caprice, and watch this, and Little Cam are the loaded dice rotators. He said, "What? There was a situation that occurred that a certain jeweler round and got past the dice on accident."
And here's where things get real dangerous. If Boosie really starts talking, dropping names from the inside, this so-called Houston check-in culture could collapse overnight. Once that door opens, you can't ignore what's been bubbling behind the scenes. Word is, some artists are already backing away from Houston altogether, skipping shows, pulling out of appearances where mob ties might be lurking. Officially, J. Prince Sr. denies there's any rule about checking in. But insiders swear the pressure is real, just more subtle now, funneled through J. Prince Jr.'s network. And after two high-profile deaths tied to dice games, even some of the boldest voices in hip-hop are asking themselves, is it really worth the risk? OGs have been warning younger artists for months, stay out of Houston's trap. Because once you're in, it ain't just about money on the table, it's about who you're standing next to when bullets fly. Just look at Finesse 2 Times. He went from repping with J. Prince Jr. to blasting their bad blood in public, claiming he got stiffed on money and hinting at disrespect behind closed doors. Then came the baby mama rumors, adding even more cracks to their so-called alliance. True or not, the drama is feeding a new narrative, that J. Prince Jr. is losing allies quicker than he can find replacements. And it ain't just rappers backing away, the labels are watching too. With all eyes on dice game controversies and the violence tied to them, record execs are quietly warning their artists to stay clear of Houston ties. They know how fast one bad headline can ruin a rollout, and no brand wants smoke with this kind of heat. Which is why, if Boosie really does start dropping names, the fallout won't just shake Houston, it could send shockwaves across the whole rap game. But let's slow it down and talk about mob ties. Up to now, most of the conversation has lived in the court of public opinion. But insiders say the feds are cooking up something much bigger, a move that could connect mob ties directly to Houston's own police department. Recent sweeps in the city have already snatched up entire drug rings and violent crews. And if the feds link that trail back to J. Prince Jr.'s circle, it could change everything overnight. With agencies like the FBI, DEA, ATF, and ICE teaming up with HPD, these moves aren't just about snatching low-level players, they're about dismantling whole organizations. Whispers in Houston say there are already sealed warrants tied to the crew, the kind that can quietly flip into arrests overnight. And with HPD's Criminal Intelligence Division locked in step with federal task forces, every favor, every off-the-record call, every backroom handshake is under the microscope. All it might take to blow this entire network wide open is one solid piece of evidence. That's where Boosie's situation turns deadly serious. If he really is cooperating, the feds could dangle protection in exchange for intel. But in the streets, that kind of protection paints a target on your back. Once people start thinking you're feeding the other side, your name doesn't stay in whispers, it starts echoing in threats. So what do you think? Is Boosie really about to flip, or is he just buying time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like, subscribe, and share, and I'll catch you in the next one.